Do a quick overview of how to do the raid system. It's pretty easy, but you need to start with decks. So the first thing you're going to do is type sdeck, and it's going to come back with something that looks like this. Yours is going to look a bit different because you have a different deck, or it'll be blank because you've never set it up. So you have to set your deck first. So you get a bunch of slots. You have to unlock them because you only get one. But for instance, we use two. Well, I use two. So this is my rating group. So basically, this deck comprised of 3 different codes. So if you click code, it asks you for all 3 of these codes. So you can get your codes super easy if you just check out your collection. Any of these codes are what you're looking for. Now I have a raid tag. So I'll come in here and T equals raid is tag for raid. So it'll show all the cards with that tag. And then we're going to look at a couple things. So when you look at a card, what you're looking for is this base stat to be roughly as close or higher than 500 if you can, because the higher that number, the more powerful the card is overall. A couple things contribute to that, so if you hit the information button, you'll see a couple things. Health obviously determines how much HP it has. Attack, obvious. Defense, obvious. Speed depends on who goes first or not. And then special, which you can't change, it's actually built into the card. So what that means is basically there is a stat that's in there that you can't change, but it's generated based on the card and its base stats. So we pull over the Sofi guide here. You can see the special stat calculation increases damage output of the card and decreases incoming damage. So layman's terms, the higher that number, the better the card. And then you get 10 points in that stat regardless, just for being 1 to 10 in the gen. You get 2 points if you add a layer, 5 points if you add a background, 10 if you just morph it. So right now, if I come in here and I take this card, and I just click the little vial icon, if it lets me, it might not, it took too long, so I'll just morph it. So S morph, and then paste the code. Then it'll be like, do you want to morph him? You just say yes. And then I don't really care what color he is, I'm just going to accept it anyway. Because now that he has a morph, remember his stat was 10. So now it's going to be 20. See? So it tells you down here what's applying to your special. So this way you can see he's got a morph, he's got his gen. That's what makes up his 20 special. There's a couple other factors that come in here. So font glow, if you add that, a frame on the card gives you 20 points. If it's an event card, like a New Year's card, that gives you 20 points. If it's 3D, it's a base 25 points, so on and so forth, all the way down to the GIF cards. There's also stat upgrading and all this stuff, so if you just go to S-Guide and bring up on the left Global Raid card stats, there's all this stuff broken into that I'm just going to go over because there's just so much. But the main idea is the stats. So now that you've got your base stats set for your cards, you want to add them to your deck. So you'll go to sdeck, and then for people that haven't set anything up, this will be blank. You just click code, and you just like this, you put all 3 codes of the cards you want to put in there. I recommend putting the first cards on there. I would put them in there as, you know, like morphed cards. Always make sure you morph your first team, because that alone is awesome. You may have XP sacks, so if you have any XP sacks, you can check that through S inventory, then click the category, and then go to raid. And in here you can see that I don't have any, but this is where they would be if you had them. So what you want to do now is set up your deck with your characters. So you're going to set up your deck and then have your 3 codes. Make sure you click save, or you'll have to do it over and over and over and over again, and that's no fun. So set your code, hit save, and then you're done. If you have more than one deck, like if you're trying to send this out on tasks, which is the other thing you want to start doing, It's S task or S daily, and it gives you these things. Down at the bottom it has a quest. Right now I'm on a quest, but you click that and it'll give you a bunch of tasks that you can set them out on. Well, if you set them out on a task, they're unusable for a raid. So you can only use one at a time. So I have one deck to do tasks, and then I have another deck that I use for the raid. In addition, your stats matter because the, and we'll pull up a raid here in a second, but the HP, the attack, the defense, the speed, all that stuff matters. The elements matter. All of these matter when you're going to fight a raid. And even more so, you can actually find it on the Sofi guide under the Global Raid tab. Again, it breaks it all down. But here's a type chart if you care about all this stuff. If not, it's okay. You can basically just bring these up and use the same team every single time. You either do good that raid or you do bad that raid. That's okay. For those of you just wanting to raid, then that would be the start. Now the next thing that you're going to start getting, especially if you've been doing tasks and stuff, is elixirs and equipment. And that's the other half of the part here. So your equipment is also in your inventory under the category equipments. And you'll see this chart. So bronze, I have 1 chest, 5 shields, 2 feet, so on and so forth, all the way down. These are all event items here, these Xmas, spring, and summer. So the thing to remember about these is that these are consumables, which means that once you put them on a card, you can't take them off. And once you put them on a card, if you try to put something new on top of it, it overwrites the old one. So if I put a bronze shield on this card here in the middle, it'll get the bonuses. But if I put a silver shield afterward, the bronze one that it was holding gets destroyed. So it's just keep in mind that when you allocate your equipment, every time that you go out on a raid, your equipment drops by 1 durability. Here you can see none of these guys are wearing equipment. But if we go, I'm going to have to retype it because it's been a minute. If we check my second deck, I've been raiding, so you can see they have some durability loss. This one doesn't even have a weapon, apparently. So we'll go through equipping real quick. So it's really simple. You grab your card code, and then you go SS, and then the card code that lets you see the stats. From here, you can check all the moves and stuff. Give it XP sacks. That's what this button is. But we're going to select the option and then equipment. And since she's not wearing any weapon, I'm going to give her a bronze sword for now. So you just click sword, type bronze, and now it's equipped to the card. You can augment equipment too, but we're not going to talk about all that because it gets really weird. You can repair, but there's an easier way. If you have your deck brought up, there's a button here that says repair all. So you just S deck or S deck 2, repair all. It'll be like, it's going to cost 42 elixir. You type yes, if you can learn the spell. And now all of their equipment is brought up. You won't see the changes reflected until you use the same command. Now they're all repaired, see? So, how do you edit their moves? Very simple. You're just going to pull up their card. Let's do this with a card that I haven't done anything with, just so I can show you what it looks like. So I'm going to bring up that raid card we had earlier. So this is the card that we morphed earlier. And as you can see, this is usually how you'll start because they only usually have 2 moves. So it's got 2 moves. It's got Serious Punch and it's got Body Shock. And then it gets a free move. And then there's 5 unlockables, which means it can have a total of 6 extra to the total of 2 that it has, 8. So you go in here to Move Options. And then you go to Unlock Moves. And again, it gets a free one. So it's going to be like, you want your free move? You say yes. And now he's got 3 moves. And then every 1,000 shards, you can unlock more moves. I'm not going to worry about that right now just because I'm not using this card, but if you did want to, this is where you would unlock it. And then once you're done unlocking moves, you'll notice that there's a potency on each of those moves. For instance, let's bring up the guide. And this looks like a lot, but we're just going to use the first one, Serious Punch, because that's what he has. So this boosts your attack stat by something % and performs a 135% damage attack. let's say he has 66%. So that means that out of that 135%, only 66% of it is going to be applied. If you had 100% potency, it would hit for a 135% damage. Same thing with this attack stat. See how it has a range? That range changes depending on the potency of the move. So if his potency is 50%, then chances are this is probably going to be like 1 point something. You know what I mean? Instead of 2. So that's the potency. You can re-roll that from the move option menu and then scroll down to re-roll potency. And then you'll get this weird fancy menu. If you roll it once, it will roll once and then give you the higher potency. You can also roll it 5, 10, 20, and 40 times, and it keeps the highest result. The more you roll it, the more shards it costs, but the less you spend over time because the bundles. So if you have a move and you're like, I want this to be 100%, some people might just hit 20 or 40 times and call it good. So this is how you would look at the moves. It's just S move and then something. So like if you wanted to look at Dragon Claw, it's going to bring up just Dragon Claw, and you can read there are 2 different types of the move. There's the dueling, so if you're playing against people, and then there's the raid, which is what you're doing in this video, is raiding, and that's going to give you what it actually does. Because as you can see, like if you play Final Fantasy XIV, that's the difference, is the PvP always has a different thing than the PvE version. And then cooldown is how often you can use it. This takes 3 turns before you can use it again, and then it's categorized as an attack. So now you want to raid, and you have your deck set up, you type SGR, or you can do a mock raid and it doesn't hurt you. So SMR lets you do a mock raid. It doesn't do anything to you, it doesn't hurt you, it doesn't take equipment, it's just to test out your deck. So it's really, really nice to get used to raids. Then you're going to click start, and then this is like the prep room. So it's just telling you, like, this is how much the HP the boss has. This is all the boss's stats. The monster is this, with this element. It's normal. You're using this deck. Remember, you have to select the deck, otherwise it'll say deck 1. So if you have multiple decks, these are your equipments. And then these right here are the boss's special moves. And it gets into a whole thing, which you can find in this list right here, special attacks, which it gives all these things. So that's on the raid page of the Sofi guide. But if you could just click start raid, it'll look something like this. If it doesn't look like this and you don't have the picture on the previous screen, you just have to click the picture icon and it will make it look all pretty like this. If not, it'll just be text. From here, you're selecting, so it tells you, the battle log says, I'm faster, I go first. So I have 40 seconds to do whatever I want to do. So I'm going to select my moves. Only one of my cards can move at a time, and then the boss attacks. I'm going to use Will-O-Wisp because that's a dot, and it reduces his damage. So it shows you, like, card 1, that's this one here, dealt 98 damage with that thing. It applied a burn. He dealt 108 damage to my first card, so now he has 250 HP. And then I'm going to use Soul Drain because it heals. So he healed a little bit, and then I took some damage on the third card. And then I'm going to use the Spirit Bomb because that thing's for some reason is a heal. I'm not really sure why. And you kind of just keep going with your moves. And you'll notice my first card just died. It goes pretty quick, especially because every turn that goes by, the boss gets stronger. So you don't want to sit here kind of wasting time, but you do want to make sure that you're able to deal out damage, because you'll see at the end it gives you a boost based on how much damage you did. This thing popping up, by the way, is my heal, that in case you're wondering why it's doing that. But see, like this last one, look, he dealt 319 damage to my second card because we're on round 9. So he gets stronger and stronger the farther you go along, so he'll get me here in just a second. But you literally just go until you can't go anymore, like here. So now it's done. If we go to the bottom, you'll see no XP added because obviously mock raid, and then this is where all your results are. So it shows conditionals. This is what was used on me, and then it shows the score, and then the XP that you earned, how much damage you did out of his full HP, and the total moves that you used. And then it cracks it down and tells you this is why you got that score. Okay, so each one, like you get more damage for bonus, you get damage for healing, you get damage for moves, having defense, blah, blah, blah. And then this right here, instead of it saying no XP, this is where you would see if you got any gear dropped or stat drops or anything from the raid. So this is where you'd see your rewards down here. But this score matters for the guild. So if you type S guild info, you can see the guild. And you'll see that our score ranking is right here. In fact, if you go to the guild members, you can see who's been raiding and who hasn't been raiding. So like I've completed 27 raids. This is my average scores. This is the average moves. All of these scores that we've been doing over these raids add up and give us this ultimate number right here. And once we get over rank 51 or higher, we start getting rewards to give to the members of the guild. So, but that's pretty much it for raiding and how to set up your deck and stuff. So if you have questions, just let me know.